let's move on to the sponsorship message of the hour, and that is brought to you by Burn It Up Coaching and Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self and the 21-Day Challenge. And I love this program because I love igniting people on fire. And if you are someone who's been stuck, you're plateaued, you're spinning your wheels, you just don't have that self-belief, the passion, the clarity, the direction, and the fulfillment like you used to have or know that you could have, 21-Day Challenge might be a great fit for you. Warning, it is not for everyone. It's only for people who want to go 110%, 110 miles an hour, who are all in, who love intensity, who love challenging themselves to be their greatest possible self, and they're looking for a challenge and someone to go with them, to join them on the journey and do this challenge, do this thing. As much fun, as much intensity, as much growth as possible within 21 days. So if that sounds like you want to have daily accountability, weekly deep dive calls to uncover the limiting beliefs, self-sabotage blocks that are keeping you from success, if you want to dial in your habits, your rituals for long-term sustainable success, dialing in your vision, getting clarity, 21-Day Challenge might be the best thing that ever happened to you. So if you're interested, send me a message on here or an email, however you want to get a hold of me. Would love to hear from you if you think the 21-Day Challenge is a fit for you. Again, it's not for everyone. So if it's not, don't take it personally. I'll send you in the right direction of something that might be able to help you even better. Cool. Very good. So next is the iTunes review of the week, and that is by Unlimited Beliefs. And Unlimited Beliefs writes, as soon as I pull it up, helpful, usable content. I really like this show. The content is so helpful because it's told through the story of the guest, which is relatable, and it's easy to plug in and use, as well as inspiring along the way. Tune in. Awesome. Thank you so much, Unlimited Beliefs. And if you want to share a review with us, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on the iTunes Store. And you can find us there, or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on Facebook. We appreciate that as well. Keep shining, super duper star. Now, for the man of the hour, Mr. Robert Murray. And I'm going to pull this up right here. Beautiful. This man is incredible. I met him at the New Media Summit, which was awesome. Actually, it was the Your Authority Blueprint Live with Mr. Michael Neely, which was awesome. I was a panelist on there, and Robert just showed up as an incredible human being with a big heart, tons of experience, just created some serious powerhouse results early on in his life, and we're going to find out about that. Robert Murray is a facilitator and coach helping organizations and individuals shift the idea of work to a sense of joy and meaning. He leads events where people see a much bigger vision for themselves and how they can connect to something that really matters to them. He believes businesses and organizations can be agents of change for good in the world. He coaches people on the leadership skills necessary to be successful in today's world. He helps connect them to mission and shares how to foster collaboration and a magnification of collective strengths, which turns work to a sense of joy and meaning. At 15, Robert Murray grew a business with a group of friends from startup to a $200 million company. 15. It was based on the idea that doing the right thing should be the primary driver of business success. Sounds right. The focus was on treating customers ethically, treating suppliers with respect, giving everyone in the company a voice in decisions, and eliminating the costs of bad behavior. He was so energized by that mission that he didn't even know he was working. That early success gave him the passion for what he does today. He's certified in appreciative inquiry facilitation by the Flourishing Leadership Institute as a certified high-performance coach by the High Performance Institute. And Robert Murray is an incredible human being, and he's here to share his gifts, his knowledge, and his experience with us. Robert, you ready to rock this?
I am. I'm excited.
Is. Boom!
Yeah,
Me too.
I woke up this morning kind of like a kid in the candy store, right? Because I've got, like, I've had some stuff I've been working on for, like, the last couple of months, and I've never rolled it out to anybody. And I'm like, ooh, I think I'm going to roll this out.
Juicy, juicy.
Yeah.
I
So
love it.
yeah.
I love new, when we share the new things, the new vision, the new resources, the new concepts with people, I find that it's exhilarating. It's on the edge of our seat, and it's also like we're proud of it because we've gotten it to the stage of, hey, like let's get this out to more people. This is it. This is the thing. It's the bee's knees. You got to find out about it. So Robert, I know we're going to be talking about that in a bit. And before we go any further, just want to say thank you so much for showing up today to share your wisdom, all your years of experience with our audience, man. We appreciate you.
Cool. Yeah, I really when I met you at the Michael Neely event, I thought, man, this guy is just on fire. And props to you doing a 12-hour live session. I mean, like, man, how many people can do that? So,
thank you, man. Thank you. Well, when you're passionate, when you're following your purpose, as I'm sure you know, you transcend normal human boundaries and limitations. So I love being able to challenge myself and grow and show up as my greatest possible self. And in the theme of today, we're talking about recalibration. So, Robert, how has this concept, this principle of recalibration played a part in your life, in your journey, in you showing up today as your greatest possible self?
Actually, I love that question because I think recalibration for me is a continual journey. It's not something that it's just like, oh, I'm going to sit up on a mountaintop and I'm going to get clear on what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to go down and do it. I think recalibration for me is that constant adjustment where, and it's interesting. This is one of the things that I teach a lot of people, and that you can get clarity by journaling and going through a series of exercises. But the real time that you get clarity is when your intentions meet the real world and you start adjusting and you start saying, okay, great. This is what I thought I was going to do. Is this really meaningful to me? Is it not? And you keep adjusting. And it's actually in that real world experience that you start finding that level of clarity in what you're meant to do. And I don't know about you, I'm sure you've experienced this too, but I feel as though you're always reinventing yourself. Like you're going through this metamorphosis constantly. And sometimes you go through, huge spurts. That's certainly been the case for me. I've recently joked to people. It's like, I feel like I'm in the cocoon right now, turning from a moth to a butterfly. It's like there's that many changes taking place on a daily basis.
That's incredible, man. And exactly, there's always deeper layers, deeper levels to get to. And what used to fulfill us won't necessarily be the thing that is still our sweet spot, our thing of most passion, most fulfillment in 5 years or 10 years from now. That's why I said, reinventing, getting clear, constantly working on that. What brings me joy? What fulfills me? What helps me to be my greatest possible self? And I'm sure you have to live that and embody that. Like for me, so example, when I name my show Greatest Possible Self, Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self, I had no idea what ramifications, what consequences, what responsibilities came with that term, Greatest Possible Self, and what that means. Because that is not a light concept. It is a very deep well to dig into. And with you being a mission-driven, like helping people create these sustainable growth strategies, like mission and meaning making, like you have to live and embody that. And as you peel these layers away and show up as that even more, I can only imagine how the world responds around you. So tell us a little bit more about the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, so I'm doing a couple of things, and really all of it relates to the idea of bringing people to what matters to them, because it's pretty interesting that what I'm finding is that as I'm talking to people, so many people are living lives that was really set up by somebody else.
Yeah.
And they've done everything right. They've gotten the great degree. They've gone to the best schools. They've gotten a job. They've climbed up the corporate ladder. They're making a ton of money. And then they're showing up talking to me and they're saying, oh my gosh, I'm comfortable. Everything's good. And I feel empty inside. I feel dead. I feel like there's no meaning in my life. Like, how do I even know? And when you start asking them, well, what is it that you care about? It's like, I don't even know what I care about. I just know it's not this. So I think that so a lot of what I'm doing is I'm coaching executives and leaders of organizations on a one-on-one basis to first find out what it is that matters to them. And then at the second part of that is to help them get that work out into the world. So part two of what I'm doing is for people in a leadership role, I'm helping them align the mission that they have with the mission of their teams and get the whole team engaged in it so that they're creating a shared vision. It's not just the mission of the leader, it's the mission of everybody on the team co-creating it, because one of the fundamental points of leadership is people support what they create. So a co-created shared vision is something that everybody's going to buy into and be excited by and energized by. And so that's really what I'm doing. So it's part one, doing one-on-one coaching and coaching in groups. And then part two is doing this facilitation with the framework called appreciative inquiry, where I'm helping really ask powerful questions where the people figure out for themselves what matters to them. And then they start creating that shared vision for themselves.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. I love it. And I want to dive into the appreciative inquiry in a bit. Before that, I want to go back to your journey, because you did some amazing things early on, and we want to know what are some of the challenges from that early experience, that in the wisdom that you gained, the lessons that you learned, all the way to where we are today. I'm sure there's a lot of things in between there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's always a story, right? There's always that hero's journey that everybody's gone through. And for me, I think in a lot of ways, this is something that was literally baked into my DNA from probably really from the time I was a kid onward. And so the journey was, and the whole story behind, how did I start growing a business with a group of my friends when I was 15 years old? Well, the reality was that my mom was in a business, and she was learning from a management consultant that had some management ideas in the 70s and 80s, that business could be an agent of change for good in the world, and that it was possible to run an ethical business, that if you concentrated on that more than anything else, that you didn't really have to focus on making money. And if you remember back to the 80s, well, you probably don't, because you were just right. But the 80s were the era of greed is good, and so when anybody had the idea that you should run a business based on ethics and doing good for the world and being an agent of change for good, they're like, you are so full of crap, dude. Like, that is not going to work. Everyone knows business is about making money. It's about extracting the most value. It's about screwing people over when you can. If you can get away with it, you do it. If you can't get away with it, then you back off. But there just wasn't the same heart that there is in business today. So
thank God. Thank God that we've evolved. Thank God.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I think I would have nobody to talk to. If business hadn't, if that wasn't proven to be a bad idea, I don't think I'd have anything to talk about. I'd just be this guy moving his mouth over here, and people are like, yeah, dude, it's still about making money. Sorry. But yeah, so what happened was he was sharing these ideas with a group of people, and there were a bunch of us, myself when I was 15, and then a bunch of us, in our 20s and in their 20s and 30s, that said, well, we don't know any better. Let's try it. So literally, we decided to start a company to test those theories out, and had no idea what the business was even going to be. Like, we were just talking with people, and one of the guys said, oh, I know about automotive parts. And we're like, okay, fine. We don't have anything else to do. Why don't we start an automotive parts business? And so that was the beginning of the business. And the idea was that, and it's funny because we did with those ideas, we did everything that now I'm learning and teaching were the exact right things to do. And it was proven that it works well, which was, we created a situation where instead of having a manager tell everybody what it was that needed to be done, we had something we were calling consensus decision making, where we included everybody in the decision process, and we had complete psychological safety. Everybody felt open to share their ideas, to share what they thought, to share what was important to them. And then we kept adjusting. Like everyone had to be heard in that situation before a decision was made. Because if anybody had some concerns about something, we're like, well, we want to know about it.
Right.
So what happened was that company grew from a complete startup when I joined. Of course, I was actually there when I was 14, started a year before, but I couldn't officially work until I was 15. So I'll just say I was 15 when I officially went on payroll, right? But we grew the company from just a small group of about 20 or 30 people to 1,000 employees, and from practically zero in revenue at the point that I joined to $200 million in revenue.
In how long?
That one, it took about 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It took about 20 years to grow that. And we got to this period of, well, here's the thing that I was reflecting on. I think it's why I care so much about the work that I'm doing right now is I went through the whole time. I was hanging out with my friends, doing something that I loved. Yeah. And I didn't even know that I was working. And it's funny to me now when I read things like the Gallup poll that says, 30% of the employees are engaged actively and 70% approximately are completely disengaged. Like they just don't care about the work they're doing. And it's like, really? Why would anybody do a job if they don't care about it? Like that just seemed like I didn't know work for people. And I certainly didn't know work for the majority of people was something that they hated. It was like, well, of course everybody loves work. I mean, like, why wouldn't you? I was, I was just experiencing joy every day. I was hanging out with my friends. So I think that's the history. The reason this work is so important to me is that I went through, so we got to that $200 million stage where growth was occurring almost parabolically. Every year we'd grow another $20 million a year. And this is part of what I love about appreciative inquiry. We were asking questions about how do we best serve our customers. And at some point when we went to that parabolic growth, we started asking a question which was almost right, but it wasn't exactly right. So the question we were asking ourselves was, wow, this is awesome. We've gotten to $200 million. How do we get to $500 million? The correct answer, the correct question to that should have been, wow, what is it that we've been doing right that's gotten us to $200 million? And how can we continue doing that to continue our exponential growth? So asking that wrong question, how can we get to $500 million? The answer was, well, we don't know. We've never done that before. So we said, well, who does know? And then we invited a bunch of consultants in. The consultants came in. And again, realizing that this was the earlier days, this was around 2000. They came in and they're like, what are you guys doing? You guys are having these meetings where you're getting everybody's input and stuff, and you're waiting to make decisions. That takes too long. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. What you need to do is you need to come up with a 5-year plan. You need to have management go off into a room, lock the door, not talk to the employees, come up with a strategic plan. And then you need to tell everybody, hey guys, this is what we're doing. This is the strategic plan. This is the way you need to start operating the business. And you can imagine what happened. We totally gutted the culture of the business. Things really fell apart at that point. And we went to a tailspin where literally the company's growth stalled, even despite us buying other companies. The growth just stopped in its tracks, and we could never grow from there. And where turnover was close to zero before, turnover started going through the roof. We were always having to retrain, bring in new employees. People were unhappy. The customers suddenly weren't happy with us. The suppliers didn't trust us anymore. Everything that we had done that was important for growth stopped happening. And in that environment, one of the guys in the company aligned himself with the consultants and basically pushed everybody out who had the core beliefs of doing the right thing and the original values and culture of the company, because we saw what was going on and we're like, hey, this is not okay. We need to go back to what we were doing. And so basically I got to the point where, 29 years into a career that had been for the first 20 at least just complete joy, that I was for the first time in my life without a job, and I got depressed and sad and felt hurt, obviously, because I never thought I'd be in that position. And that was the thing that got me into the growth mindset and the personal development mindset, because in that period, after going through what you might expect was a period of depression and feeling sorry for myself and feeling really sad, I started a meetup group to help people with job search. And when I did that, I found myself starting to heal by helping the other people in the job search mode. And that got me deep into personal development. It got me deep into coaching, and it really started the journey that I'm on.
That's amazing, man. Amazing. So you went from this place of passion and joy and love and having so much fun with your friends, building this company, and then I love how you said the question that you were asking, how do we get to $1 billion or $500 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was partially correct, but the real question was, how can we maximize what we're doing already, make a couple tiny tweaks so that we optimize our systems, our processes, our, whatever journey, our growth path to get to $1 billion, $500 million even faster.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, wow. And
it's super critical to understand that there's like, if you're doing something that's successful, there's strengths in the system somewhere. And what we were doing was we were ignoring those strengths and we were just trying to get the result.
Man. And then you hired these consultants, they came in, changed everything around, and then from there you guys just couldn't figure it out, and then you got out of the company and you went through this period of darkness where you had to, say, wow, I can't believe I'm at this place in my life. I thought that this company that was successful and thriving and doing everything that we wanted it to do for so many years was going to take us all the way.
Yeah.
Like, what did you have to learn about yourself through that process?
Oh, do we have more than an hour, or do you want to back two or three more? But I mean, one of the really important things, I'll just highlight some of the things. But sure. One of the things that I learned about myself, or had to, was that it's really, really important to focus on the value that you want to deliver and on serving and providing help to other people, because that really was the healing journey for me, was starting to help other people. The other part was just to not have a pity party. I mean, it's so easy in that situation to feel like you're a victim. And it's so easy to play the victim role. And that's cool if you want to do it. And if you want, you'll be stuck. And I actually remember literally having a period where I was standing in the doorway to my bedroom, and I was looking over on one side at my bed and just feeling like what I really, really wanted to do more than anything else was to curl up in a ball in the middle of that bed and just never come out. Like, that's the way I felt. I just did not want to deal with life. I did not want to deal with people. It was just like, I'm done with this. And then I looked over to the left and I saw the doorway, and I said, or I could walk out the door and I could get on with my life and I could start doing what I need to do and start serving. And that was a critical decision point. And I could easily have curled up in a ball and would not be doing the work that I'm doing, would not have been any particular use to anybody. And in a lot of ways, that would be just an incredibly selfish act on my part. Getting out the door was the harder decision. It was painful, particularly when I was feeling so unsure of myself and unconfident and was low self-esteem. And, just being out in events and networking parties, it's like, yeah, I'm the guy that's just a complete loser, I haven't had a job. I've been depressed. I feel sad, that type of thing. Yeah. But the thing that I've realized now is that it's a choice. Happiness is a choice. Confidence is a choice. We get to choose that every single day. And when I was standing in that doorway, I had a choice to make. And luckily, I made the choice to walk out the door. And it's not always the easy choice, but it's the right choice. And if we have a choice to choose feeling miserable or feeling good, why don't we choose the feeling good part?
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned, like, you can choose to throw yourself to pity party, or, choose happiness, choose to walk out the door and get back reintegrated with people, go serve, focus on serving. And I think for some people, it depends on the level of the event and how much it might hurt, or how much disappointment, how much trauma, that kind of thing. I think in some instances, it's like giving ourselves permission to have that pity party, just like a quick one. Hey, listen, this sucks and I hate it. And then blah, 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 just like unleash it. Yeah. But then after 15, 20 minutes, whatever, an hour most, like, okay, I'm done with my pity party. Time to move on. What am I going to do? And have that determination, have that resolution. So for anyone who goes through any challenges moving forward, if you're listening or watching to this, make sure you frame it in your mind that this is just a season. This is just a phase that you're going through. It might seem like the end of the world. Own it. Get pissed or whatever you need to do to let go, to get through your emotions, and then move on. Move to the next thing for you. So Robert, I hear that you did that successfully. You moved to the next thing that was for you. You took the focus off yourself and how bad you felt, and you said, how can I serve? How can I get out there and make a difference? And you started focusing on this new style of leadership. And so I want to ask you, why is this new mindset of leadership, why is that important in today's day and age, in today's modern world?
Well, I think there's a whole bunch of reasons. And one is, for me, having experienced that at an early age, just the difference between doing something that has complete joy and meaning and doing it with people that I love. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's the difference between, joy is probably the right way to express it, versus just living life and tolerating it and bearing it and trudging through it. And I think that's so important. And one of the things that I'm realizing is that in today's world, I was just reading the Gallup poll yesterday, and they were talking about how 70% of the employees in the US, at least, are actively disengaged from the work that they're doing, or just really don't care. And I think what we're realizing is that people want purpose, and that purpose is now a currency. And particularly, it was interesting that you had, a beautiful millennial in your last call, because I think millennials are even more that way. They're more driven by purpose and wanting to have meaning in what it is that they're doing. And so you can offer, as a company, you can try to get the best talent, and you can't get the best talent if you don't give people a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose in what they're doing, because money alone is not going to do it. It's not going to attract the best talent. And even if it does attract the best talent in the short term, they won't stay in the long term, because they'll end up like so many of my clients end up saying, I'm making great money, I drive a great car, I live in a beautiful house, and I feel dead inside. And at some point, people are like, I don't want to feel dead inside anymore.
Man. So you have to have that purpose for life, for the feeling of aliveness, know, and I think we're not equipped to understand what makes us come alive through our education system. So as an employer, it's up to us to educate our employees or our teammates, our partners, our surroundings, our communities, to what makes them come alive, or at least encourage that or celebrate that, or have an awareness about it, so that we can do our duty in the world for the people who may not have had the fortune of discovering that they're a purpose-driven person. We are purpose-driven people in this day and age. Or two, to give them clarity of, hey, you love this, so let's put you in the spot that's going to be the best fit for you. And if this isn't it, if this company isn't it, we wish you the best to find the thing that's going to fulfill you in that purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful, man. So as far as being a consultant, what have been some big consultant and coach? What have been some big things that you've learned through the inquiry method that you it's very unique. And when I started talking to you at Michael's event, I was like, wow, that's fascinating. So for everyone who doesn't know about this type of inquiry, why don't you share a little bit more about it and why it's beneficial and powerful?
Thank you, because it's one of these things. It's like I geek out and I talk to people about it every moment I get. But one of the core ideas of it is that the questions we ask change the lens through which we look at things. Immediately in the process of asking the question, how we respond, what we're focused on changes immediately. And so often we approach life, we approach our businesses, we approach whatever relationships we have as problems to be solved. And we're getting into them and we're saying, all right, what's wrong? What's broken? What's missing? What do I have to fix? Who do I have to blame? These are all of the questions that we find ourselves asking because humans, from an evolutionary standpoint, it's not really, I won't say it's not our fault, but just to protect ourselves, we were trained, I think, from an evolutionary standpoint to focus on the negative, the threats, the dangers, what's missing. And as soon as you shift that lens and start focusing on what's working, what's right, what are the strengths of the system, that suddenly your focus changes, what seems possible changes, your vision expands, you start being able to be much more creative. And in that process, you come up with far better solutions, vastly better solutions than you would otherwise.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It's just funny because I remember I did a facilitation and I was trying to come up with a good example, and one of the people who was attending it came up with what I thought was a fabulous example. I don't know if the viewers will love it or not, but I said, you could have an old beat up car and say, well, how do I fix this beat up car? How do I fix this beat up car as cheaply as possible? Which is not, that's like the normal problem solving mode. And in that, you would get a set of ideas because you're asking yourself that question. But instead, you started asking yourself, what could the future of transportation look like? What would be an ideal way of moving around? Suddenly, your attention focuses from fixing up your old beat up whatever piece of junk in the garage to designing a Tesla or designing something like a Tesla. Wow. You can see we're not even talking the same league. It's just like an evolutionary difference because you're now asking what could be, what's possible, utilizing the strengths that we already have.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I love, like you said, it's not focusing on what's wrong, what needs to be changed, what's broken, but rather what are the strengths? How can we evolve this? What's the next level of what's working right now? And I think that's such a powerful acknowledgement-based, grounded in celebration, grounded in evolution versus this is broken. How do we fix it? How do we take away and put something back? How do we change out the parts versus how do we naturally, organically grow? So in terms of leaders using this mindset, how can leaders do that, and how can leaders be more effective in their leadership?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's the most important, I think I shared what the most important tenet of leadership is, that people support what they create. But I think along with that comes the recognition that the true wisdom is not in any one individual. It's not in one leader, it's in the system.
Hmm.
And so the absolute best leaders are those that can ask the most beautiful questions. I think the skill of asking questions and drawing out from the organization, from the system, the answers born out of that collective wisdom is like the most authentic, most real, most powerful way to lead any group of people. And when you do that, you're not leading, you don't have to worry about accountability, because instead of getting on people and saying, well, you said you were going to do this, how come you haven't done it? The people are like, well, of course I'm doing that. We all decided we were doing that. This is what we want to do. And they're sharing that collective vision together, and they're sharing the design that they want to move forward with. So they're just doing it. It just is like, I think it really is the difference within any organization. And I don't want to limit this to companies. I mean, I've done this with nonprofits. I've done this with community groups. It's the best way to lead an organization around a shared vision and co-create a common language, a common mission that matters to everybody, so that they just naturally do it.
Beautiful. And that is the art of asking the right questions. That's what gets people to have the common vision and know what we're driving towards, know what's important, know what moves the needle.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. So asking better questions is how leaders can lead more effectively. What do you think are some of the traits that you've seen in successful organizations and successful leadership?
One of the traits, and this is a really important, when I read this, I was like, oh, I got to read this again. But it was the idea that the success of leadership, the success of helping people, has to do more with the inner state of the person who's intervening. And what I mean by that is, one of the traits that I've seen in successful leaders is that real alignment and congruence, that they are aware of the fact that they can't lead authentically. They can't lead with heart unless they're actually experiencing the heart themselves, unless they're actually doing the right thing. They're caring about their relationships. They're truly caring about the people and the organization. They truly care about the mission. They're truly okay with their family. They're taking care of their health. They're getting enough sleep. They're doing all the things to be whole in themselves. Because what happens is, when a leader is in any way inauthentic, we have these crazy bullshit meters, right? Like, and probably more than ever before, we have crazy bullshit meters, because there's so much stuff coming at us all the time. And if you're incongruent with what you're trying to get people to do, if you're not being a role model, then people don't follow you. They don't believe you. They don't care.
That's powerful, man. How did you see that? What are some, and some evidence that you've discovered in your own life, or just noticing working with people, companies, that had you come to that conclusion and have that be a main component of your philosophy?
Yeah. Well, there's so many. Unfortunately, some of it came from that horrible example that, of watching what happened to an organization that I cared about. So it was seeing I think the most powerful lesson, unfortunately, was that of seeing how could it be that nobody wanted to leave, that everybody cared, that everybody was completely engaged with the company, versus now people are like, I can't wait to get out of here. This is really, really painful. So I've seen a lot of those really bad examples. And I've also seen really powerful examples of it where, and I'll just share an example of, there's a company that I'm working with. There's actually two great examples of this in my life right now. And I'll just presence the fact that, through my own personal journey of self-development, I actually can say there's not a single individual in my life that isn't just amazing. Like, I don't feel blessed to be in a relationship or to be part of them. But I'll share a specific example. I'm working with a leadership development, sales training, coaching organization called Epic Impact. And the first day that we had a team meeting, instead of asking anything else that, like, okay, guys, here's our metrics, here's our goals, here's what we need to do. We started out with some great music, which I think involved a little bit of dance, not on my part, but on some of the other team part. They were just like, they were moving. The music was moving them.
Right.
Then we did a meditation drop in.
Ooh.
So already it's like, okay, this is totally a different kind of organization. Starts the meeting with meditation as a drop in.
That's awesome.
And then we moved into the question, what is it about, what strengths do you see in the other members of the team that you're excited to learn from and collaborate with? And as soon as that question was asked, then suddenly I was thinking about what's great about all the people that I get to work with. My whole focus was changed. And by the time we had that meeting, where we were asking a couple of other appreciative questions after that, I was like, wow, these guys asked me to work with them a couple days a week to do this work. How do I work with them full time? This is so awesome. So you could see the level of joy and engagement that happened just in that one onboarding session, that first team meeting that we had. Wow. So that was one. The other thing that's been a really powerful example to me is working with the Flourishing Leadership Institute. I was the first class of what they call LEAFs. So it's leading with experiential appreciative facilitation. I don't expect anybody to remember or even care about it. But I was the first class when John Berghoff of the Flourishing Leadership Institute decided to start doing this training. And I was interested because I had been to some of his events, and I'm like, there's some magic behind these events. I need to know what's going on here. So when he did the first training, he told me about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm raising my hand. I'm in on this. But the thing that I see about John as an example and the Flourishing Leadership Institute as a whole is that they're completely congruent as humans. It's just the quality of somebody that I admire. So not only is he running a large scale organization, I mean, he had the opportunities to work with, as a leader of the organization, work in a corporation for a lot of money. He's never said what it was, but it was a lot of money. And he chose to start his own company because he cared so much about getting this work into the world. And he is congruent in the sense that he's caring about his relationships with his family. He's caring about how he reaches out to people. He's cared about his own he spends time trail running with nature on a consistent basis. He puts as many visions of nature and I'll say realness, communing with nature as possible. He engages in a meditation practice. He eats well. So, I mean, all the things you could just see as a human, he's being consistent with that. And now, as an organization, Flourishing Leadership Institute is getting invited to facilitate with BMW and Facebook and, huge organizations internationally to help with mergers of organizations and bring the people together around a mission that matters to them. That's and awesome. How would that even occur if the person wasn't a role model? So I think those are probably the two, when you're asking the question, the two most powerful examples that I can state.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. I love it because when the leader is setting the tone, setting the pace, it's I always think if I'm 100%, 100% accountable, 100% responsible, 100% whatever, then I can only expect. I can invite and expect or anticipate that the people below me are going to be at 100% or maybe a little bit less, right? In terms of their buy-in, because I'm the leader, I set the pace. But if I'm at like 99% or 95% or 90% or whatever, there's stuff in the way. I have doubts. I have insecurities. I'm not aligned. I'm taking actions and have habits that are causing self-sabotage. Then that energy is going to be picked up throughout the organization, and more as the levels go down, so to speak, farther away from the top of the leadership. So I just think it's so important to today, in today's day and age, to be so aligned and connected with the vision, and to constantly be seeking and searching for, what can I do to be in more alignment, more congruency with my vision, with how I show up in my company, with how I show up in my family. And what you're saying is such a powerful demonstration it's essential to really succeed, to really to be one of the best, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I hope this is the case. I think this is the case, that we're getting to the point in history where, because people are so sensitive, and I mean, it used to be that you could get away with things, and it was easier to hide who you really were before the information age, before the internet, before social media, before immediate reviews that get published, millions of times. It's a lot harder to hide.
Yeah.
And so it's my personal belief and hope, in a way, that the companies who don't adopt a truly heart-centered, aligned way of doing business are going to become increasingly difficult for them to compete in today's marketplace, because people have a choice, and people are increasingly voting to buy from and support the companies that they believe in, that they see as role models, that they feel like are good examples, and they, as much as they can, want to withdraw support from companies that they just feel are taking advantage blatantly in every way that they possibly can.
Wow. Amazing, man. Amazing. What do you see as the evolution and development of this leadership work that you're doing? What do you see? And you mentioned you're getting some new stuff ready to release and share, and you're coming out of the cocoon, so to speak, spreading those wings. What do you see as the evolution moving forward?
So one of the things that I see, it's funny because I was literally just having a conversation with a friend about this morning. What I see the evolution is it's a combination of group discussions, group facilitations, and then so the having really positive conversations on a continual basis, and then having each individual work on himself and getting aligned and congruent with himself, because meaning that we give to anything is an individual choice, and appreciative leadership is letting the team connect with the meaning to them. And there's going to be different sets of meanings for each person. Somebody's going to be working at an organization because he wants to get a new house. Somebody else is trying to support his family overseas. Somebody else is trying to gain knowledge and skill sets because he wants to start an entrepreneurial journey, and he loves mentorship, whatever. There's going to be different sets of meanings. And what I see in the evolution is that that leadership starts evolving where all of those visions can fit into the larger picture, and that the leader is taking that into account and is leading by finding ways to connect with the why, the purpose of each individual person that's on his team. And then part two of that, and this is what excites me, is not only just teaching these principles, but then also going in and helping the individual team members with what their individual mission is for their lives, and then getting congruent with themselves. And it means all of the habits that you have to build to be successful. It's all the things that I'm sure many of your guests have shared about, what's important to do. Taking time off, sleeping well, eating well, hydrating, having the right levels of influence, being courageous. All of those things are super important, and they can't be left out. You can't be eating junk and not sleeping and going out and binge drinking or abusing drugs or something like that, and then come into work and expect to be at your best. It doesn't work that way.
Nope. So I'm curious for the vision, because I'm sure we have a lot of small business owners on the show as well who tune in. How do you start actually facilitating that alignment of people with their goals, with their vision, while keeping them engaged in the culture and helping them maximize their habits, their own routines, their life, so that they show up as their best for both the company and themselves.
Yeah. So one of the ways, and it's funny because I actually did this I ran a community building event. Mm-hmm. And one of the women who owns a small marketing agency, and I think she has 7 or 8 employees, so it's a small business. Mm-hmm. She was in attendance at it. And a couple of weeks after the session that we did, she said, "Oh my gosh, Rob, all of our meetings are so much better." And I said, "Wow, what did you change?" And she said, "Well, what I changed was, instead of starting off the meeting of, okay, guys, let's do a check-in. The goals that we had last week were XXX. How did you do?" Right? Normal meeting type. She checked in and just asked a question, what went really well last week? Why don't we just go around briefly and share something that we're all excited about? And it doesn't have to be something that we're excited about work. But what are we excited about? And it just shifts the focus of the meeting, and it starts generating that positive energy. So that's an example of something that can be done just in a micro way. Yeah. But what if you conducted all your meetings that way? What if every meeting started out with a positive check-in of what's going great and what people are excited about, rather than what's wrong, what's broken, what's missing? How did you guys do? You said you were going to do this. How'd you do?
Yeah. And even if it's like if it's a leadership meeting, starting off with gratitude, starting off with appreciation. What went well? What worked? What's your big win over the last week? That's something I ask my clients a lot is, what's your big win? What's your big win since we last talked? And that's an opportunity where they get to show up and celebrate themselves. And oftentimes I've noticed that my clients, and if I'm doing group coaching or whatever it might be, facilitating a meeting, going around mastermind, oftentimes there's people who are like, well, I don't know how big it is. It's not that big, and I'm like, hey, you own your wins. You own the steps forward. You own the things that help you move forward, that are important to you, that excite you, right? And if you're about to share something that doesn't excite you, then share something else. Share something that does excite you, and teach yourself, learn. And if you can't find anything, teach yourself and learn to find those silver threads, the silver lining in life that is, fulfilling, that moves you forward, that is exciting for you. But to say that, oh, it's not that big, to discount what you're about to share as something that's important to you, takes away the whole purpose of the exercise, which is the energy of celebration, the energy of acknowledgement and fulfillment. So I'm sure, having these at meetings and just building that energy of fulfillment and celebration is so important to build the culture that celebrates each other, that accepts and welcomes victories and celebrations and team unity as we move forward towards our vision, and we get excited about the progress that we're making.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you talked about that. This is a funny example, but it's an example that I realized for myself. Mm-hmm. Because one habit I have is I write down 3 things I'm grateful for every day.
Yes.
And I think, as I shared in the beginning, one of the things that I often write down is I'm grateful for all the amazing people in my life and how much I enjoy them. And what I started doing, and this was at the prompting of a coach of mine, who said, why don't you make sure that of the 3 appreciations that you write down, or 3 things you're grateful for, write down 2 that you're grateful for about yourself. And so this is how a leader can shift. Ooh. So I started writing, I'm really grateful that I'm the kind of person that attracts amazing people into my life.
Wow.
And you can see how that shifts my attention. Like, wow, I'm showing up differently. I'm showing up as the kind of person who attracts those kind of people.
Wow.
So that's good. And I think as leaders, that's a real huge opportunity that we have of start noticing the gifts and the strengths in people on our team and calling them out and just saying, hey, Joe, I don't know if you noticed this, but I realized that you really care about people and that you're mentoring people. This is one example. I hope I can get through without crying. I cry every time I say it. But when I was at one of the Appreciative Inquiry events, they had hired a new person to help coordinate the event. Okay. So she had been working there for 2 days or 3 days. And she's, I don't know, I'm going to guess she's 22. Okay. She's young. And then there was another woman who was running the events before who might be 28 or 29, but she took this other girl under her wings and was mentoring her. They're not going to do it. But anyway, she was mentoring her and making sure that she really felt part of the community and taking care of her. And it was just beautiful to watch. And I called it out to the room. I said, did you realize how Laura was taking Bree under her wing and making a huge difference in her life? And can you imagine what Bree's life will be like because of the mentorship that she got? And everyone in the room tears up like I always do. It's okay. I never get through I pretty much never get through an interview or a live cast without tearing up at some point. But just thinking about, just calling the attention to how beautiful it was what Laura did when people might not have noticed that, and doing that publicly, where everybody starts presencing the strengths that are in other individual members of the team. How powerful is that for building community, for building a real sense of teamwork and collaboration? And for all I know, other people are now going to go check in on the strengths with that person because they see this person as being really amazing at that particular thing.
Yeah, man, this is amazing. Amazing, man. I love that you got emotional about that, about this thing, this leadership, these people getting the support and the guidance that they need. It's so clear to me, Robert, and I know for anyone who's listening or watching, that you love what you do, and you're totally in the right purpose, the right place, the right time, and it's so phenomenal to see you flourishing and sharing and teaching people these concepts, because it is so needed in the world. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. So in terms of being a epic leader, let's begin wrapping it up. You know, the mission, that matters, being a great leader. Let's drive it home, the final takeaways we want to give to our audience.
Yeah. So I think really one of the key things that you can do that's just a takeaway quickly from this is to consistently develop the habit of reframing any question that you catch yourself that's negative or deficit based to something that's positive based. And hopefully it's okay to curse, mild curse. Yes. But one of the frameworks that I've been using is there's always a gift in the shitstorm.
Yeah.
And if you train yourself, like whenever anything goes wrong, and first of all, just as you shared, it's natural, human. We're always going to think, darn it, and then start blaming and start looking at what's wrong and getting emotional and reacting. But if you can train yourself out of that habit to start reframing towards the positive and asking an appreciative question, just that one thing will make a absolute positive difference in your own life and in the life of your organization.
Yeah. A question I like to ask is, what is the gift?
Exactly.
What's the gift? What's the gift? In every moment, doesn't matter if things are going super awesome or things are not going so awesome. There's always an opportunity to celebrate the gift, the present moment, right? That's why they call the present, because there's a gift in the present. Love it. Love it, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Robert, dude, you're doing amazing work in the world, and people want to know, how do they stay connected with you, and what would we want them to do next so they can take that next step on the journey with you?
Yeah, and I'll shoot you a link, because one of the things that I decided to do, knowing that I was going to be joining you on this, is to create a 2-hour live training session.
Wow.
And I'll post the link. I don't know if you have a place to post links. Unfortunately, I made it way too long. So I don't know if I read it to people, they're like, what? But anyway, if somebody would love to join and learn more about this, I think I've got through maybe three lines of the 4 pages of content that I had done.
Gosh.
Yeah, literally. So I'm real, as you could tell, I'm super passionate about this. I'm super excited to share it. So I'd love to have listeners jump on the training webinar, and I'll share with them the link. If people want to get in touch with me, my website is sustainablegrowthstrategies.com. So it's all run together, sustainablegrowthstrategies.com. And I can share my email address. People are certainly welcome to email me. Is Rob at sustainablegrowthstrategies.com.
Is there another Rob at Sustainable Growth Strategies?
Well, no, actually, that's a really good question. I think, yeah, I think Rob at Sustainable Growth Strategies also works. Yeah, because I'm the only one. Yeah, I'm the only one in the company. You're right. So
That's funny. No, but seriously, that's great. And seriously, everyone take advantage of this offer because Robert is given his amazing wisdom and leadership and experience. And there's people who we want to learn from because they're being the example. In a lot of ways, you are that, Robert. And then also there's people who we want to learn as a warning, right? Like you could have, hindsight's 2020, right? But you could have stood up for that question of what can we do to keep this, keep playing to the strengths. But you didn't know. You didn't know that you didn't know. And now you freaking know. And you will never let anyone around you get away with not doing that, with not playing to their strengths, not standing up for their values, what they believe in, the mission, the vision of the company, never losing sight of that. And I love that that's who you are and that's how you show up. And anyone who stays around you will learn that and be that as well. So I highly recommend anyone listening or watching, stay connected with Robert. He's an amazing dude and there's big, big things coming from him. And keep up the business excellence, Rob. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing with our audience. And you are the man.
Absolutely. Loved it. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome, Rob. We'll see you soon, okay?
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Take care, brother.